All right, welcome and good evening to Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. This is Raph streaming to you live, high above the keep in the hot air balloon. Tonight, as always, I have Neindorf with me. Neindorf, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm ready for an episode. We missed a week, so let's do it.
Let's go. We're back from spring break, back and better than ever, and we have the one, the only, first time ever on the podcast, the founder himself, Mr. Frisky Fox. How you doing, Fox?
Hey guys, I'm doing good. Really happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And also, that music was just so fire. I was over here rocking out.
Oh, yeah, that was from when you guys did the what's his name? Mike Dialga, and it's from the when we did the well, I say we. It's I'm a
Right.
part of like I'm a part of the team because we've all been through the bear
All
market
been
for
there.
so long. It feels like a we.
We're
But
all in it together.
when you guys did the music contest,
Hmm.
and I remember like we were an up and coming podcast at the time, and like I reached out to everyone. I just like spammed them with DMs on Discord. I was like, please, can we use your music for our podcast? We need to add production value to our low quality that we normally put out. And finally, one of the groups got back to me, and it's like the cousin of this guy, and he made this, and he's like, yeah, as long as you shout out his SoundCloud, you can use this on your stream. So I'm like, yes, awesome, let's go. But yeah, I love blaring it out loud every time because it gets me fired up and ready to go.
That's awesome. Yeah, there were so many awesome music pieces that came out of that contest. I was
For
really loving
sure.
that one.
Yeah. All right, so let's start with a question of the day. I snuck one in here on Neindorf. I thought of one at the last minute. Um, Frisky Fox. I remember I had dinner with Hubert one time, and he mentioned to me that you play board games at home. So, question of the day is, what is your favorite board game to play at home when you're not doing DFK?
Oh man, there's so many to choose from. It's hard to choose just one. Let's see.
Well,
So,
while you're thinking
well,
about it,
with
do you want us
Hubert,
to go first, or do you want to go first? You got one on the spot.
I'll just say with Hubert, actually, like he and I have been friends for a long time as well. And we do sometimes play board games. Actually, we're interestingly enough, we're scheduled to play a board game tomorrow night online with some of our old friends from high school. So, but we like to play Gloomhaven. Uh, he's he's been playing it up for a long time, and he has a lot of groups that he plays with, and so he made a group with me and a few of our other friends, and we played through the whole campaign, and now we actually just barely started Frosthaven. So I think we're doing that tomorrow.
All right, Neindorf, you got
That's
one?
awesome. Uh, you know, it's tough because I've not played a lot of board games for some amount of time. I think every once in a while, even the girls, my Gen ones here, they're fairly young, but they still love to bust out the classic Monopoly, and we never finish, which is great.
No
But
game of
it's
Monopoly
still,
is ever finished if you want to keep your familial relationships intact. So that's, I think, a
but
good
like,
parenting move, actually.
and they're getting to the age now where they're a little older and they're starting to want to make deals and like they're getting the point of Monopoly, and so it's becoming fun again for me. So I'll stick with the classic. I love it.
Yeah. I got two that I want to shout out. One that I've been playing recently with the boys. So my oldest, they are 9 and 7. And so we just started playing King Domino, which is a kind of a kingdom building game, ironically enough. And it's where you have these little domino cards and they have resources on them and you're trying to pair them up. It's a lot of fun. A good strategy game for young kids. I've been having a lot of fun with that. And then, I have to throw it out there because we have the Frisky Fox himself on, but Outfoxed is a game that we play as well, which is like a mystery game where a fox steals something and you have to figure out which fox it is. So, yeah, in honor of you, Frisky Fox, we play Outfox at the home. That's for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I've actually played
King Domino.
King. Yeah, I actually used to be IT director. And so I actually created a AI puzzle, and I had like a challenge where I said, everyone on our team write an AI algorithm to play this game, and then we'll play them against each other and see which one wins. So everybody wrote their own AI for that game,
That's
and then we
awesome.
had a contest. So yeah, it was
Oh,
fun. I
cool.
like that game.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. You'll have to tell me which strategy won, because I'm still
I
searching for it.
actually still have that somewhere on a JS fiddle. Maybe I'll send it over to you.
Okay, so do you
Nice.
have the algorithm that is my wife's strategy that wins at every board game night? And it's 10 minutes into the game, you say, I'm not going to win. This is awful. I should just quit now. And then everyone takes it easy on her for the next 30 minutes. And then she comes out of nowhere and beats everyone at the last possible minute. Like that strategy, can that be built into an algorithm? Because I feel like that's the superior strategy of all board games.
Playing the sympathy card. I see.
Yeah. Lure
Yes.
everyone
Yeah, that's
into a false sense of security and then swoop in and execute them with no mercy.
yep, yep. No, it's always a lot of fun to play games. I actually have a couple kids too, and my oldest, he actually really likes to play Gloomhaven as well. So I bought Jaws of the Lion for us to play. It's kind of like the beginner's version of it,
Okay.
and we basically played through the whole campaign, and then I went and bought the actual game of Gloomhaven. We played through all that, and it's a lot of fun.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I would
But
say
I also like Terraforming Mars too.
ooh, that's oh man. Okay. We probably need to set up an entire separate podcast just on board games. So I didn't know how deep this would go, but Hubert, I remember he said you like board games, and so I kind of knew. Yeah, Terraforming Mars, Power Grid is one of my favorites of all
Oh, I
time.
forgot about that one.
I love Axis and Allies 1942. That's a good
Oh
one.
wow.
Um, and then I love a good Pandemic Legacy like that.
Mm.
That's I've had some real good games there too. So oh gosh, I could go on and on for board games for hours.
Mon- Monopoly though, that's a killer one. Like I think they actually invented that game to showcase the flaws of capitalism and how it's a broken system. But then
Right.
everybody loved it so much anyways, they're like, wait a minute, you guys aren't supposed to like playing this game.
uh, yeah, that's absolutely true. Yep. There were
Oh,
the evils of the monopoly, and yet, yeah, yep.
okay. So Fishy Foods just said Settlers of Catan.
Yes, good
One of my
one.
favorite parts of Settlers of Catan is in the more recent version. I don't even know if it's true or not, but in the version that my friend bought once upon a time, it had a bumper sticker that said "Settlers of Catan: The Game of Our Generation." And so we had a group of people that would get together and play. And the deal we made is that the loser at the end of the like the 4 weeks of games had to put the bumper sticker of, and it was like a real tacky Settlers of Catan bumper sticker on their vehicles. So yeah, I love a good Settlers of Catan too. That's fun.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good one. All the expansions are good too.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for the interview today. So thanks everyone. Just kidding. Yeah, we're just here to talk about board games. All right. So Fox, it's been a minute since Duels was out, and we wanted to talk about Duels tonight, and
Yeah.
maybe dive a little deep, get into the nerd realm of what's going on under the hood. During the last AMA, you mentioned that you're working on some improvements for gas and that
Mhm.
you're alluding to the idea of that like the as you start to create the contract for what will manage duels in the future, this will be perpetual now, that there could still be an off season, but duels is going to continue to run. And so tell us, what's different under the hood, and what do these gas improvements actually mean?
Yeah, sure. There's just so like historically we've had to basically build a new smart contract every time that we have a new season, and it always kind of sneaks up on us because we've got so many things we're doing, and then it's like, oh wait a minute, like our current season is over in a week, and it's like, oh, like we had all these ideas for like our next season. Now it's time to hurry and implement it and test it and get it out the door. And so that's been me historically, basically. So it's like Fox, like we need you to do all these other things too. You can't just be doing duels all the time, or like every like month or so, like get sidetracked for a few weeks with duels. Which it is. There's a lot of effort and love and sweat and tears that have gone into duels over the years, and it has been a lot of fun. But it's also sort of reached its sort of like completion point of like this is basically what we had envisioned for duels. Like the first few seasons were more like proofs of concept, adding new features, um, and there are some exciting new features that we've added into this last one as well. But the idea is that we're at a point where we've got combat out. We've announced PvP now. Duels was always meant to be sort of a mini game,
Hmm.
something that would sort of like tide people over until we get there. And that's what it will continue to be. But the idea is that we want to make one final season that's more automatic, so that it's not something that we have to always be sidetracking, I guess, onto and stuff like that, and can actually be able to let it sort of run automatically, and be sort of a perpetual duel. And then we'll just be able to continue to pump out all of the exciting new things that we have for the stuff we're working on, like PvP, and then other things that we've announced as well that are coming, and then eventually onto lands and other sorts of things there, which I'm very excited about.
So are you saying
So
like this
yeah,
is like Last Dance, like Michael Jordan documentary here?
um, this is like, let's make something that's gonna just um, keep running forever, and it's gonna be out there in the blockchain. So
Love that.
it has a good game loop already. Like you have your heroes go, they can earn uh, rewards and equipment, raffle tickets, and things like that, and sort of get better at duels, and then compete, and then whoever has like the highest, you can be like the uh, you could be the champion of like a certain lobby, and sort of do a lot of competition that way. So it has a really good game loop. There's a few other features that I wanted to add to really round it out. But the main thing has just been a lot of refactoring, such that one smart contract can actually just do that automatically and not have to be hands-on. So under the hood, there's been a lot of improvements, a lot of changes there. You still hear me, by the way? I've been hearing
Yeah.
some weird
Yeah.
mic things. Okay. Um, and so let's see, how technical do you guys want to get? Basically, the one contract, it can be set up so that there's no downtime in between seasons, but I'm not sure that we want to do that. We do kind of want to give people, maybe a week to sort of swap heroes around or do whatever they want to do before the next one starts, and I think that's probably a good idea. Um, so it'll just be one of those things though that will just be scheduled, and it'll be scheduled ahead of time. So it's like everyone will know on this day it'll start next season, and on this day it'll end, and then you'll have a week, and then starting next one, and it'll just be like programmed in, which I like about it because it's really just set and forget. Um, and yeah, so having it all in one contract really makes it a lot easier to to do things that will be sweeping changes across all seasons as well. Like if we were to upgrade one thing or tweak one thing, then that thing will automatically just apply to all the future seasons as well. And we will probably do little tweaks here and there as we go. There could be some things that need to be rebalanced, or there might be even some new things that we'll add into future seasons. I'm not saying that that's off the table, but it's more of like this will run automatically, and maybe we'll do something mid-season sometimes even, or maybe we'll hurry and sneak something in between a season every now and then. But it's not going to be anything major or big. It's going to generally be smaller things.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I totally get that because, as a dev, also, your attention can only be split among so many projects. And I totally respect that sometimes if you can get something to a point of it's automated and off your mind at least 90% of the time, there's
Mhm.
definitely power to that, and you can be freed up for other features. So I totally get that. Is so you say behind one contract, is this kind of more some of the stuff like you guys have done on your other code parts of the code base where you're moving behind like the diamond pattern?
Oh yeah, so it'll be using the diamond pattern. Actually, we pioneered using the diamond pattern in Duels for season 0. It was our first time that we messed around with diamonds, and it worked out so well for season 0 that we're like, let's start using this in all kinds of things. So since then, we've used it for um, most of our bigger contracts. In fact, we've even converted some of our old Open Zeppelin smart contracts into a diamond, which um, I don't think anyone else has tried to do that before that I've heard of any other project. I actually asked in their Discord way back when like we were trying to do it. I was like, has anyone had any success upgrading a Open Zeppelin contract into a diamond? And it was just like crickets, you know.
Oh wow.
Um, so yeah, we didn't think it was possible actually, and then suddenly like one night, I was messing around and had a breakthrough, and I was like, I think this is gonna work. So it was really great because Hero Core is what we called our NFT hero contract, and it was an Open Zeppelin upgradable smart contract, and uh, that one basically was something that we were always upgrading and adding things to, and eventually we ran out of space in there because smart contracts can only have so much lines of code before it's just too big. And that's the advantage of using diamonds is actually you can put different things into different facets, and each facet is its own smart contract. So each of those facets can have like 25 kilobytes, I think was the limit or something. Um, and so suddenly you don't have any limit anymore because you can have as many facets as you want, basically. So that's been really a boon for us. It's been something that we've created a lot of tooling around, so it's a lot easier to manage these diamonds and to have them be secure and sort of be like managed by our multi-sigs and things like that. So they're um, have like a lot of best practices there, and we've created our own upgrade scripts to make it easier and safer to modify those things. But it's been really good to use those.
I love that.
That's really
So,
cool.
what I'm hearing, one of the things we heard or Duels was presented to the community as, and correct me if you feel like I'm paraphrasing or misreading this incorrectly. But Duels was originally like a tool for like matching players and a bit of a stepping stone, but it feels like it was also a technical stepping stone that has allowed you guys to experiment with how to do things on the blockchain game and develop a game on the blockchain in ways that like aren't really readily apparent to the rest of the player base. So like how else are like the work that was done for Duels like that has to be building the bridge for the future, right?
Yeah, honestly, like we learned a lot from duels. We even like stuff like the matchmaking, since you brought that up, that was something that we didn't know if it was going to be possible to do on chain. How we did it, even having like the ELO system that we have in it right now, like these are all very sort of advanced things, and I don't think anyone else has tried to do this on the blockchain that I'm aware of. Um, but how we ended up doing it was actually really, really cool from a technical perspective. We used um, AB, a like red black binary tree to store things more efficiently, and that's really important for solidity because you have limited resources and things cost gas. So we actually built or actually like adapted an existing library and like made it go a level deeper. So it's just like another dimension to it, and created this really cool library for that we now use in a few other things as well. It's just a very useful tool and like library to have. So there's all kinds of things that we learned from Duels and we sort of pioneered and applied to other smart contracts too. So now, as I sort of mentioned earlier, most of our bigger features are like actually using diamonds, like hunts use diamonds and uh, power ups and a lot of other ones have been converted to diamonds like heroes and auctions and stuff like that. So actually maybe not auctions, I might have misspoke about that. But basically anything that we expect to have a fair amount of complexity, we just will default to using diamonds for that. So that's been really good. And we also stay on top of like new things that are being built. Like this there's this really cool thing that's been started called Mud, that I've been actively experimenting with. It's um, a similar concept to using diamonds, where you have this thing called a world, and it's a smart contract. But everything in the entire game is basically just one big diamond, for lack of a better word. And there's a lot of advantages there, in terms of like ease of use of like accessing all of your data in one place, and not having to like juggle around a bunch of different addresses for things. So it's really cool. And there's always new stuff being built out there, and so staying on top of that and staying sort of at the cutting edge of the on-chain world is something that we're always doing.
So is that kind of like you just add and remove facets as you make other implementation changes in your world, so to speak?
Yeah, actually, I would invite anyone here who's interested in any of this stuff just to go check it out. It's called mud.dev. I actually built a prototype with it over the Christmas break, because I was like, hey, I have some time. Let's learn a new tech. So that one was a lot of fun because it's actually built for specifically for on-chain gaming, and that's really what DFK is. We are sort of like the king slash OG of like on-chain gaming. See a lot of other games out there that have sort of a hybrid approach where they're just a traditional game that might mint you NFTs or something, which is still really cool, but I think it's just the tip of the iceberg of like what on-chain gaming could and should be.
I I got some time. Let's learn a new tech. Needs to be a meme that our community runs with, because that is all joking aside. Like, we love and appreciate that we have a founder that like is not just satisfied with status quo, and like let's go continue to evolve this, advance it, continue to make it better. And
Well,
that's
well, yeah,
awesome.
it's our entire team, honestly. I think it was Pinecone who found it, and he shared it in our Slack. We're always like sharing new tech and like stuff that's been announced or whatever internally, and so he went and found it and like this looks really cool. I was like, it does look really cool. So like me and Magnus looked at it, and you know, we get excited about these types of things. So it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so I have to placate the crowd here. KP's asking, and this is actually question 3 on my list. We've heard about dueling to the death. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the most asked for features of duels over the course of since we launched duels. Like everyone's been asking, like duels, like what about death matches? What about fighting to the death? What about hero burn? And they're all just other ways of saying the same sort of thing.
Yeah,
And
historically, a duel is a fight to the death, right? So
right,
yeah, that makes sense.
but but so from a lore perspective, right? It was like duels is a mini game, and you're sitting at the tavern, and you've got cards, hero cards, and
Right,
you're
right.
basically playing a mini game with these cards and sort of comparing stats and seeing which one wins. It's actually kind of like I don't know if you guys ever played War when you were kids with like playing cards,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
like eight beats seven and queen beats jack sort of thing, and then you play for keeps sort of, and then whoever ends up with the whole deck wins. I sort of envisioned it as a similar concept to that, where you're like playing a card, but heroes are so much more than just like a simple number. Like time, I don't think we had anything that was burning heroes to start. Dark Summoning came out later on, after we had already started Duels. So pretty sure, anyways. Someone's probably going to call me out if I'm wrong, but that was still a very new concept. But for this final season, I'm sort of calling it a final season, even though it's not obviously. But like this is like the final last push into like let's add everything that we want to do eventually into Duels, lay the groundwork for it now, because once the smart contract is launched, it's really hard to change the structure, like the underlying structure of the storage, without doing a lot of like refactoring things, because the structure you just can't easily upgrade things like that. So I wanted to make sure that anything big like this we got into this season. And deathmatch was one of those things. I was like, you know what, it gets asked for so many times. If people really want to do a deathmatch, then let them do a deathmatch. It was sort of like the approach I took. So I created a new style of like private duels. Actually, a few new styles. There's deathmatch. There's another one called Keepsies, which I'll let you speculate on what it does. It's probably pretty
Uh,
straightforward. Um, and so the ability to have those be built into the private, so that if you're doing a private match, you can sort of choose: do you want this to be a death match? Do you want this to be something else? And a part of that was you had to add an extra step now, because you're basically putting up your hero for, say, a death match. The other player might put up some stupid hero that you don't want, or if it's like playing for keepsies or something, um, then sometimes you don't want that to actually be the one that you do. So you'll have a chance for both players to sort of confirm before it starts. So here's my hero, the other person puts up their hero, and then the first person again gets a chance to say, is this good? If yes, then start it. Um, and so that was the approach that we took with that. There's an extra handshake going on with these types of things. But then after that, it's just sort of like a regular duel. And since it's a private match, those things don't aren't impacted by the hero class boosts that are periodically changing out. So I think that's good, because it's a little bit less random at that time. So there's one less factor that you can't control. And if you're doing something like deathmatch, I think a lot of people are going to be
Right.
wanting to make sure that they're at least able to be in control of as much as they can be.
So what?
But yeah,
This sounds a little silly, but what happens at the end of the death match, from a technical perspective, is the hero sent to the losing hero is sent to the burn wallet.
yeah. So when you look at dark summoning, when a hero is dark summoned, the heroes that went into it get sent to the graveyard contract, or not sent to it, but the graveyard contract processes them. And so I'm not sure if we've talked a lot about the graveyard contract, but it's an actual smart contract that we created that handles having a hero die, and it records the death, and it does a few other things there too. So this one actually uses the same smart contract, so they actually get buried in
This
the
is
graveyard.
awesome.
nice.
We
And
had, I don't
yeah,
know, Neindorf. Did you know about the graveyard contract? This is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I knew it was there. I didn't. I love the term that the hero's buried, though. That is making me laugh pretty good
Yeah.
right now.
yep. And there's stuff in the future that we've sort of talked about. Like there's all kinds of things we can do with these heroes that are dead. We could have them, like we've sort of talked about. Wouldn't it be cool if during a Halloween event we had them randomly appear as like semi-transparent ghosts in the town or something? Or would it be cool if like maybe they show up as like zombie heroes that you fight in some kind of like
Okay,
future
stop.
PvE?
You're reading our
No
mind
way.
now. Stop. You're reading our mind. Like that is all right. Let's go recklessly speculate. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
We'll
this
do
is
that a
all
little later.
completely
Like that
this is all
is
completely reckless speculation. Like this is not something that's even been planned. But these are just like things, like these heroes are dead. Like we could use them for things in the future.
yeah. I mean, I really like. Okay, we're going reckless speculation time now. So like disclaimers ahead here, right? Um, this is like the disclaimer you see when you're going down like like a mountain pass, and it's like, hey, speed limit. There's falling rocks ahead. Okay, so you know we've had this idea too, Neindorf, with the game that we were thinking about building, and that we've built to some extent. But like dark summoning is a pretty dirty deed from a lore perspective, and so what if dark summoning was like managed by this like dark necromancer that's out there in the world, and there is this, like, it seems like this cult that's inside the castle and then under the castle that's doing this dark summoning. Like, where are all these heroes going? And what if they, like, some necromancer brings them back, and we got to go fight all these nasty heroes that the Mythic Squad is throwing into the pit. Um, like,
Yeah, I mean,
how
like all
awesome would that
these,
be?
like all of this hero killing is like, are we basically eventually going to have to go and like pay the piper because we've been
Right,
like strengthening this army of like some undead master? I don't know. Like that
right.
would be awesome. So who knows?
I'd love that. I am all on board for this. So let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, I mean, that's fascinating, kind of reeling us back in for a moment, only for a moment, before we go recklessly speculate again. Um, like, having that alternative death contract feels like something that would be a fun tournament for people to play. Like, I feel like this actually adds like a an interesting element to the community. Like, I know there's a group that's trying to do kind of like a quasi death tournament, but you have to like commit to sending that hero. It's not very, it doesn't fit with the trustless world that we expect crypto to be. So building this in, that's a really neat feature. And yeah, I get that the lore was originally like just these cards, but I feel like this burn mechanic will be greatly appreciated by the community. So kudos for building this, and yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's the hope. Just basically trying to think ahead. Like, let's get all the things that we're going that we might want to do in the future, and just sort of lay the groundwork for it here as far as the structure goes. So that's really what it's been about.
Have you thought about any other game modes for dueling, like Gen Zeros only, PJs only, um, something like a class of heroes? Because it feels like, in some sense, you're gonna inevitably get 3 level 20 mythic dreads versus 3 level 20 mythic dreads, or
Hmm.
maybe one of them's a legendary. How do you, are you thinking about ways that you can continue to make this fun for the masses, or is that okay that it just trends towards heroes that accumulate greater stats?
Yeah, I mean, that's been something that Hubert has actually shared some insights about. And actually, a lot of the things in duels that we've changed over the seasons to make it be a little bit more random or have more checks in place have been because of his inputs. He hasn't really done a ton of inputs to duels because it's been more of just a mini game, and he's been sort of trying to focus on like the actual like combat and all that type of stuff. But he has added some really key and really awesome insights that have actually been adopted. So you see things like the class boost system was sort of an approach to make it so that you know Dread Knights, they're good and they're really good for a reason, and probably will always be one of the top heroes, but they're not always going to be unbeatable in duels because of a bunch of different things. And there are certain lobbies that might periodically have different ways that they do the combat or like the calculation. Like maybe you'll have something that'll be like in this particular lobby, maybe you can't use pets, or maybe uh, in like this lobby for a period of time, like your pets are like super powered. There's all kinds of things that can be done there. But the idea with this last season is to allow us to do things like that, but also it's kind of a symbolic like time to pass on the torch of like these types of ideas are going to be executed in actual PvP, like in the actual combat engine. So a lot of these things, like ideas about like Gen Zero tournaments or what kinds of heroes you can use or all kinds of restrictions there, you'll see a lot of that sort of anything that's new will be trying to say how can we fit this into the PvP world rather than like let's have duels be the ongoing continuous um, way to do everything. So it's kind of like a shifting of focus towards we've got this really awesome, really cool combat engine that we poured a ton of time into. Huge shout out to Hubert and Beetle Dude and others that have been working on that very hard. Um, and let's use it. Like this is an amazing experience. Let's just build on that. So that's kind of the pivot there of sorts. Whereas Duels is kind of like this is like a fun mini game. You can earn rewards from it. You can do all kinds of stuff there. But the future is definitely PvP and like the whole combat engine experience.
Fox, I feel like I have to keep showering praise your way because not only are you good at developing the game, but you're great at helping me segue to the next topic in the podcast, which is PvP. And so, thank you for teeing that up. That's a lob ball over to me. So, we understand that a lot is under development, and we there's going to be probably moments of this next part of the podcast where you have to like I like to call it from Anchorman. It's bark twice if you're in Milwaukee, which is what Anchorman says to Baxter, the dog who's lost. Anyways, so it's like you don't have to actually tell us what the alpha is coming up here, but you know, it feels like we're starting to embark on your idea of the Ready Player One vision that you've talked about on the AMAs for a long time, and we're going to be taking these heroes onto another chain to battle in PvP, which is extremely exciting. Like I think this Metis announcement, it caught a lot of us like totally by surprise in a really good way, and it's been really impressive. One of the pieces that I loved about the article is that it's going to enable more player choice. And so by choosing to go send your heroes to go do PvP, like they can't do other things. Can you expand a little more on the idea behind like this is enabling player choice with PvP?
Yeah. And just to hit back to your first point about the alpha, like they don't tell me things anymore, or like they're afraid to tell me things. Like Fox is gonna drop so much alpha, so I I don't even know which classes are coming next. Half the time, I have a pretty good idea now because it's actually getting really it's closer. But it's just funny. They're like, let's not tell Fox things because he's gonna alpha.
that's
And so
that's
anything I
awesome.
say here is that just have it with a grain of salt. That how does Bolon say it? Like, don't ape into what Fox says because most likely he's wrong. First of all, and also anything and everything is always subject to change in this space. So take it all with a grain of
I
salt.
appreciate the disclaimer. Yeah.
Yep. So let's see. What was the question again? PvP and player choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you have these hero assets, and they are assets in a very real sense. And the whole stamina system is built sort of like a way to give a speed limit on what you can do with those assets. You can do so many things in a certain amount of time, and then you have to wait for that to come back, or spend like stamina potions or something on them. And then experience points in the system of like leveling up. It's sort of there's like a loop to the game, and that was actually our first game loop, I believe, like the whole experience system with questing and like stamina. So the more things we add to the game, the more choices you're going to have, and you only have a limited amount of resources, and it's like, what do you want to do with those? And the choices you make are definitely going to impact what things those heroes become good at, and what things you as a player can like start to become good at, and there will be all kinds of different ways to play the game, all kinds of different things you can do. And I always sort of liken a lot of the ideas and things that we are creating to a lot of the traditional MMORPGs that are out there. Like I played a lot of Final Fantasy 11 when I was in high school. Um, and I didn't play any World of Warcraft, but it's a very similar thing there. But you have this real world economy, or not real world, but like this real economy, I should say, where you've got heroes and like players that are out there doing different things. Like in FF11, you could become a blacksmith, or you could go out and uh, try to be like a person who would go and farm for items from monsters that are high level, or all kinds of things. And then you'll get these items, or you'll create these items. You go stick it on the auction house, so that people will come buy them because they're trying to use those for other things. Everyone has their own goals, but what really fascinated me about Final Fantasy 11 and other MMORPGs is this whole economy that gets created within the game, where each player can choose what the heck they want to do in the game, and not everyone enjoys the same things. You'll have some people that are out there saying, I just want to go fishing all day, and they'll stand there and go fishing. And other people are like, I want to create the strongest army, or like strongest hero that can just do all these high end things. And so you have producers and consumers, and it's the same thing with the stuff that we're building here, except it adds another dimension here on the blockchain, where you actually have a real world economy directly integrated into the game, and that's what I love about that. So it's just really really cool. And yeah, as you add more and more choices, you have to decide, how do you want to use your heroes. Maybe this hero is going to specialize in doing foraging, and then this other hero can specialize in summoning other heroes because they just have like really good stats, or they're at Gen Zero, or who knows what. Like you've got so many different things that you can do, and having players look at the current state of the economy and find out, where is there a need? What can I do? How can I turn a profit? Whether it's in-game items or like real-world assets or whatever, like that's really a fun game for a large amount of people.
All right, I have so many follow-ups on this. I don't know where to begin. So let's start with you said, I can't remember what you said was the first game loop, but you did not reference the wishing well, which is which is like there's tears right now in Neindorf and I's eyes, because Neindorf, do you remember the wishing well when that first came out? Like we stayed up all night long, like questing our heroes, right?
Oh yeah, and tiers at that point were like
Oh,
super rare, and so they were like
uber
the
rare
most
and
prized possession.
worth like 80. I think, weren't they worth like $80 a tier at one point? That was
I don't know, it
high.
was crazy.
That was fantastic. Anyway, so we
You're right. You're right. That was the first game loop. Yes,
we've been in this game too long. It's I think what we're saying with that one. Um, but Neindorf, one of the things that you've been talking about, and we've been jokingly and endearingly calling it like Neindorf's daycare, and it was like a game loop of you buying under leveled heroes, and I won't spill the beans on what those heroes were, beyond just legendary heroes, but you're like, I can turn a profit by buying these heroes at level 1, leveling them up, and then going to sell them at level 10 where the game is at. And to some person, like, they can go buy a level 10 hero, and so that brings absolute value to them. And so like that's a great example of a game loop. And yeah, Neindorf, I'll let you comment on that.
Yeah, you're right, and I mean it's I think it's useful for a few reasons. Like some people just want to pick up level tens for dark summoning material, so they can if they make a nice hero as a result, they can quick get up to level 10. Or other people just want level 10 boar hunt heroes. If you're just getting started, it can take a bit to get to 10. So having a good population of level 10s out there, or 12s now with the box, is a good thing. And I can remember, not all that long ago when there were not a ton of level 10 plus heroes. And I do love to see that these, even just the void hunts, are making a lot more heroes push into those higher levels. So I think that's really cool to see.
I love
Mhm.
that. And so, another idea of a game loop. This is borderline reckless speculation now again, so forewarning here. But one of our developers in ADFK, Skillet, he was talking about, and Neindorf, if you know the game that he was talking about, like reference it. I think it was WoW, but I can't remember. Um, there was this concept of not only are there these different game functions, but when you go on like a raid, which is like a battle to go fight these monsters, sometimes you have to bring someone. You have your fighters and you have your foragers, or you have your fighters and you have your resource collectors. And so not only is there like these game loops that exist, but like going back to what you said early in the podcast, like it's like the Olympic sign. You have these like intertwining game loops now where you could potentially have to go mine this super secret gold resource. But if you just send your best fighters, well, they're probably not good gold miners. And so they actually, you have to spend your party resources. You can only bring so many heroes. Like, you have to send some good fighters out. You have to send some good resource gatherers. And if you're successful killing off the smog of the lair, or some dragon or some monster, then you can go mine the resources, and then everyone gets a cut of the loot. Like, what kind of amazing game loop could exist?
Yeah, I mean, there's just that's exactly right. There's like so many different things that are possible, and each new game loop that is added gives more utility to existing assets, but it also a lot of times can create new assets out there as well. Like, oh, actually, we haven't announced that yet. Okay, but this is why
don't
they don't tell me
don't
things.
worry, no
But
one's listening. It's just Neindorf and I hanging out.
of course, of course, like just let me pick an example that we've launched already. I guess like Hunt, like um, we launched Void Hunts, and we also released some new assets with that too. Like here's new things you can get from hunts, and it's a whole new game loop too. And so it uses existing assets out there, aka heroes, but it also gives new game loops, new assets are created there as well. And that's the beauty of blockchain, is that you can have this interoperability on chain where anyone can come and build a smart contract, build a game loop, and say, you know what, bring your DFK assets, bring your heroes, and play with them, and earn some items in our game, like in our loop with those heroes. So it's really like creating a new ring, and it's those interlocking rings, like the Olympics symbol, like you were saying there, where as you add more and more loops and more projects out there that are interoperable, then those same assets get new utility, but you're also creating new asset classes out there too for those specific loops that are out there. So it's just a really cool world, and it's definitely very like Ready Player One, which I love about it. I think that Ready Player One is going to happen because of blockchain ideas that are out there. So I'm super stoked about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many exciting things that can be unlocked by having a trustless ecosystem that allows you to, write the rules into a technical contract that you guys understand. I sure don't, but like I can go play a game and the things that I'm doing are worth something to someone out there. Like, that's fun. Like, I actually am setting up an account today actually for my 9-year-old, and like he had done a few boar hunts, and he's like, this is fun. And he's like, can I play on your account? And I'm like, I don't trust you playing on my account, but I will set up an account for you. And like, so I set it up with a holiday wallet for him, because he has an
Right.
email now, like at 9 years old. And so like and I sent him 6 heroes, like two boar hunting teams. And I'm like, go nuts, bud. And I actually, it is great because it's actually a learning experience for him too, like where he can understand the economics of things. Like, where I gave him a set amount of jewel, I'm like, 50 jewel here, and you have to create a self-sustaining ecosystem for yourself. Like you have to go do hunts, and then the items that you get, you can choose. Like, do you sell them back into the ecosystem so you can keep hunting, or do you equip them to your hero? Like, you have to think through that. And just seeing like, his non-reckless mind, like, because I've been jaded. Nindorf and I have been in this a while now, as you have too, Fox, and like we're just total degens, and so it's like we're just recklessly investing our funds into this at this point, um, as crazy people do. And so like seeing his kind of mind churn through, like, oh, like this is a return on investment analysis. Like, what do I get when I do this? Like, should I use a potion here, or should I try to fight this out and then retry? Like with limited funds, like that's so much fun. And so there's all these interesting game loops that we have going on all at once. So I don't know. I'm
Definitely.
rambling now, Neindorf. So what do you have to say?
No, I think that's awesome, and that's kind of what got us into DFK, like really early on, is this potential. And as you talk, Fox, about game loops, I mean, those the beauty of more game loops is that you can appeal to more people. Because you nailed it when you said some people play a game a certain way and other people play it a different way. And I think in this game, like Skillet, he helps us a lot. He loves the market analysis. He loves the token prices, and oh look, this is cheaper to sell here. I can buy this there. This is that is his game. That's how he plays it. He doesn't actually want to have top tier heroes. He wants to get into the materials economy, and so it's the fact that that exists and can excite him is really cool. And then again, you can simplify it down also for a relatively young child. I will say, our kids are all fairly young, and they still find joy in it, and it gives them problem solving and real economic kind of balance that they have to learn. Like that's the epitome of why, like, I grew up playing games and I loved them so much. I mean, we're just kind of recapturing that here. And all those awesome characters I created growing up are thrown away on some hard drive of some game system. So this is finally a chance now where, like, you actually can walk away with something, with blockchain tech. So it'll be really interesting to see where, like, our kids in that generation can take gaming. Is there going to be an account? Is there going to be a DFK hero that they summoned when they were 12 years old, and they have it, and they're gonna it's still around, and they still can play with it when they're in their mid 20s or something. Like, that concept is just awesome to me.
100%. Yeah. Like I used to play Space Trader when I was a kid, on my Palm Pilot. And I think
Oh
before that, I
man.
played like Taipan or some kind of similar game with like chips. But like just trading, like selling high, buying low, and like seeing what is currently in demand. Like if a lot of people love those types of games, and it's basically just a spreadsheet sort of game. Like so it's fun, and yeah, like the whole concept of like this stuff is gonna be around. It's on the blockchain. It's gonna stay there forever. I always have this thing where I think about like if you lived 200 years ago or 500 years ago, 99.9% of the people, there's zero record of. We don't even know them. Like they're gone out of history. It's that 100 years ago, you've got like journals and things, and 50 years, you've got like pictures, and then now you've got like videos and things, and like the more stuff that is built with technology, like it's giving immortality in a way to people that lived during that time. Shoot, things going down. Okay, no, it's fine. Then it's sort of like anyone in our current time. You've got like Instagram, Facebook, all these kinds of social things, and everyone's posting all their lives every day. Like that stuff is going to be with the human race till the end of time. Like it's sticking around. It'll be trivial to store all that information on like whatever hard disk. That's never going to go away. It's never going to get erased. And it's the same thing with like blockchain with games. All this data that's being accrued from all this activity, it's just going to be there and sort of perpetuate forever. So we're at that point where it's like anything that is done is going to be here long after maybe we pass. Unfortunately, unless we figure out how to cure death eventually. So
Well, one of my
Finger
favorite
crossed on that one.
one of my favorite quotes is from Talladega Nights, where Ricky Bobby says, "With my high income stream and today's technology, it's not ridiculous to think that I could live to 300 years old." So there you go.
Honestly, yeah, it's not
Yeah.
like even just with AI, like you could have AI just watch all of your posts on Instagram and all of the things you've ever written on your blog or whatever, and say, you know what, take on this person's personality after they're gone. Ask them questions, like be them. It's kind of crazy to think about, but AI could probably approximate anyone's personality good enough to fool anyone else.
Cool. We're getting some deep cuts here now. Love this. Love this. All right. So, um, with PvP, we're talking about, and again, reckless speculation here. So, um, as Nindorf and I have been going through this, we're trying to realize what the DeFi ecosystem is going to mean. And you gotta have heroes are important. Your pets are important for the combat loop, and then you also have to have potions, and that means kind of like these items and tokens. And so what kind of technical challenges does that present when we're thinking about like this PvP loop on a new chain? Like, does that necessitate that there's going to have to be like a dex, or like in an ecosystem like a mythics swap over on the metis, like layer 2, or what does that mean, like that? And share what you can, Fox, on this, because I know we're diving deep into like the development of what PvP means, and you can't divulge everything because a lot of it's being built right now. But as we've been thinking through this, we're like, okay, so one challenge leads to another. Just expand on that if you would.
Yeah, and I'll just sort of put a little disclaimer that we're still actively exploring a lot of different routes on the best way to build on Metis. It's our first attempt to create uh, some of our new features on a chain like Metis that's a part of the Ethereum ecosystem in a very direct way, like how it is. So there's a lot of considerations. Like, for example, it is generally speaking a lot more costly to do transactions there, and there's a like really good like reason for that, the added security of the Ethereum layer and all that type of stuff. But it presents unique challenges to us in terms of like how do we really go hyper optimization mode and create the best experience for our like users while still showcasing all of the amazing things that are there in like the Metis ecosystem. And it's been a lot of fun. Metis is a really good partner, and they actually are wanting to really push the envelope too on what is possible on their chain. They announced a partnership with Eigenlayer that is in the process now of like adding some really cool things that will hopefully help on that front. And I think that's going to be launching next month is when it's slated. Uh, but that is really exciting there. So we are sort of seeing like, okay, like under scenario A, let's assume that we could see, sort of like this amount of costs for things that opens up the door for us to do this and this and this. Under scenario B, like we could take sort of a unique approach that we've been sort of like brainstorming as a really feasible way to sort of have all of our realms be more closely tied together, and actually be used in a single element. And I'm trying to be very vague here with my words. I'm sorry, but we haven't announced most of this stuff yet. But there's stuff there that we're exploring to say like this is a viable option as well. Um, and so basically, we've created a bunch of different proofs of concept, and I've been sort of like beating that up. So I created a few different proofs of concept to see what it looks like under this, and then what if we optimize this? What does that do to the experience? And then what would it look like if we did this other thing? And so Hubert is kind of working on a lot of the architecture of the features, and I'm trying to have like a look at the architecture of how all of the pieces would speak to each other. And you hit the nail on the head. Like you think of a really cool feature like PvP. Um, what do you need to have on a chain to support that feature? Things like potions, things like equipment, and like durability, and all kinds of stuff there that
Yeah,
we
it's
want to
one after another, like,
hit it exactly.
and it's a compliment to the game that you guys are building too. That's like this complex ecosystem. So, like you say, just battling, but then when you think about it, it's a lot more than that, right?
Definitely, definitely. And then just like stuff like onboarding users, like anytime we expand into a new ecosystem, um, there's a unique opportunity for us to be now uh, in front of a lot of new eyeballs and like new players. And so how do we get them on into it? So things like, hero auctions and like marketplaces and things there, and then like having marketplaces for your like Duel and some of your power tokens and things, and some of your potions. Those are all things that we're definitely seeing, like how does this fit into the whole picture that is PvP, and how do we make that work really well on like Metis. So there's a bunch of things where we're trying to look to like leverage um, some of the key projects that are already building on Metis, and also we're also obviously creating a lot of new things ourselves that will be a part of that picture as well. So that's from a very high level about all I can say.
Yeah.
I'll say that we're still kind of waiting to see how certain things play out before we make the final decision on which architecture model that we go with. But we do have a few really good options that we've advanced forward as all being viable from a technical perspective, and then it's just a matter of trying to find the one that's the best fit from a user experience perspective.
Are you at all concerned that, like, say the initial analysis shows out to, $1 a transaction on Metis, and then eventually that goes up or down? Because I mean, it's a living, breathing chain, right? So those gas costs do shift over time. So I guess I'm sure you're concerned that you'll have to, at some point, pivot if the costs go out of whack one way or the other as well.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. In fact, I think all blockchain games that I'm aware of just stick to one chain. Um, and I'm sure there's some out there that are doing multi-chain too that I just haven't heard of. But I think we're the only one I can think of right now that are doing it in the approach we're doing. And so you've got interesting situations where sometimes it's cheaper to summon heroes on Arendelle than it is over on Crystal Vale. Or sometimes it's less expensive to do hero questing here versus there. And so you see people move around because of those shifting landscapes of like the broader blockchain networks that are out there. So it's really a cool additional dimension that it adds to our game. And it's for sure something that we'll always be watching and like sort of seeing if there needs to be adjustments made here or there for sure.
Yeah, it's almost like you need, like, a player, your profile. It's almost like you need an oracle that tracks your content, and then that can be cross chain. I'm just thinking out loud here, but you have some strange concept like that almost. Otherwise, or you got to do it the way you guys are doing it now, which definitely works, where you just have to bridge and use on the spot. Um, and the more realms there are, the more places you got to look. It's easy to lose heroes and items. I'll say that right now.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and so it's part of the game. Really, it's like built into the game to be like, am I doing what's best right now with my assets? For sure.
All right. Well, I see the Alpha Police is here, so we gotta kind of wrap this thing up. All right. So I appreciate all the alpha that you've spilled today, Fox. I feel like I now know when Jewel is going to be at $100. to this specific date and time.
And
It's
reading between the
wonderful.
lines, huh?
Yeah, yeah. This is great. Yeah, Bolon, don't pay any attention to the earlier podcast here. No, thank you, Fox. This has been a lot of fun. I feel like we get a chance to hear not only like all the technical advancements that went on under the hood, like that led up to Duels, but now we're learning about all the technical challenges that are at play, like uh, going forward, and that's an exciting thing I think for all of us. So I mean, maybe let's end with like the Metis announcement. Like I think I speak for everyone in the community. Like, could not be more bullish about this. Like, so exciting, so uh, invigorating that this is being injected into the ecosystem. Give us some insight into like your day to day. Like what's the funding impact from Metis? Like, what are you guys doing? Are you hiring? Like, what are you planning on doing next? And like, what does this mean for the chain? Kind of like the next few months.
Yeah, no, it's been very impactful. We've endured a very long bear market, and it was hard, and we had to uh, do all kinds of things to sort of enable us to be able to weather that storm. A lot of people were working at like reduced hours and things, and it's basically to ensure that we have the runway to still be able to last towards the like into like the next cycle, because as all of us know here in this space there are a lot of cycles. And I've been in the crypto space as an investor for a long time, which has been good. But sort of like if you've been around for a while, you sort of see those patterns form. So it's definitely impactful there to allow us to basically commit resources to a feature like PvP that's very involved, that otherwise might not have come out until maybe next year even. It really accelerates that timeline for that feature a ton. And so we're super excited about that. It enables us to really pour all kinds of resources into that, um, and have these really cool new experiences for our players get built. And so I'm really stoked from that aspect of it. And just like allowing us, it really gives us a lot more options on things that we can do and build, and allows us to really capitalize on the myriad of opportunities that are out there right now in the space. There's a lot of excitement starting to build up again now in like the crypto space, and so many opportunities are starting to come, for all kinds of like projects that are building here. And so now is the time when the iron is hot, when you have to strike. But having the ability to strike at the right time is really just comes down to resources, and like what like the bandwidth is, and what you have available. So we as a project are really poised, as a result of all the work that was put in over the past like 2.5 years. We've created an amazing brand. We have an amazing community. We have all this content and actual gameplay and things, and it's really a testament to our team and to all of you guys here, all of the guilds and the community, and it really all came together. So it puts us in a really good spot where all those opportunities are starting to come, and we're able to now be able to actually capitalize on those. So I'm stoked about that. It's really a perfect partnership in that respect. Um, and it's going to create a lot of value for everyone involved, because that's what the blockchain really is about. It's about the sum of the parts being greater. Oh shoot, I said it wrong. The sum of
No, you
I
said
can't ever say this one
you're
right.
on the right way. Yeah, some of the parts
You
greater
know
than
what
the
I'm
whole.
saying, right?
Yeah.
Like basically, if you just add it up, it actually becomes more than it would have otherwise become, because of the synergy that's there. And that's really what it's about. The space, like everything builds on itself and creates this feedback loop that's just amazing. So that's what I like about it.
Thank you. I appreciate the explanation, and we live in the world of like social media memes where you know, we take 10-second snippets of everything, but and for all of the good and for all of the bad. And so, you know, I wrote down. He said, you know, time to strike is now, and the iron's hot, and I appreciate that, and I think the community does too. And I feel like this was the bullish injection that we all needed, and this is exciting. Like, so congrats to you guys, the DeFi Kingdoms team. I mean, like the bear market has been brutal for everyone, and this is really exciting that this is invigorating to you guys. Like that is exciting to us, and I think that's something that we should all like put a pin in our cap for.
Yeah, for sure. We're very, very excited about it, excited about the partnership, and it's really been very, very satisfying from a team standpoint to see a lot of the sort of like the fruits of all the seeds that have been planted are starting to be able to actually be like ripe and able to harvest now. So yeah, it's been great.
All right. Well, Neindorf, any closing comments you have for the evening?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on. I guess with duels kind of entering what you're branding as the final season here, you're not looking for work, are you?
Oh man, there's so many things that Sasha has lined up for me and Hubert. They're like, hurry up and finish those duels already because we've got like 50 things over here we need you to work on. And it's true, there's always so many things to do. So I'm stoked about it. The final season, more like the perpetual season, is
Yeah,
I. So in our code, we have like S1, S2, S3, and S6. And for this season, like the actual name of the smart contract files in our code base, I just called it S999. So there's an example
nice.
for you.
Love
I
it.
love that.
All right.
Yep.
For S999, this is Raph from ADFK signing out. A very special thanks to Frisky Fox for the first time being on this podcast. We appreciate you for being here tonight, and more importantly, we appreciate you for the work that you've done in the DeFi Kingdoms ecosystem. So, thank you very much, and have a good night.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you guys. Always nice to be here and nice to see everyone.